Welcome to Modus Cafe. Join us for fun, lighthearted, and educational conversations around training, athletic longevity, and the human side of climbing. With your hosts, Mercedes Pollmeyer and Katja Dev. So today we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of pyramids. We'll actually talk about what a pyramid is and how it can actually enhance your climbing training. It can help you stay focused, things like that. So I love pyramids, and I'm really glad that we get to talk about it. So Katja is here with me today to talk about all of the stuff about pyramids. How you doing?
Good. I'm very excited.
Good.
It's a topic that we've been wanting to talk about. I think it's an important topic, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there sometimes in terms of how to
Yeah.
do the pyramids, what timeline, when to focus on them and when not. And I've definitely seen people also get stuck with pyramids, so we want to talk about that today as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
again, this is hopefully going to be helpful to people and clear up some confusion in terms of what the purpose is, when to use them, and maybe when not to use them. Because, like for anything in training, there's a certain time for it that works better than other times.
Yeah. Well, so pyramids are something that we have introduced in the Stronger Together, our training membership. It's something that we help our clients with in order to keep their training focused. And we also use it for our one-on-one clients. Like we don't use it with all one-on-one clients. Some people actually naturally do a pyramid. Um, but what I've noticed is that pyramids actually can like open up this whole world of training to people who've never tried pyramids before. Um, so what is a pyramid? So essentially, at least for us, a pyramid like it's described exactly as it sounds. It's building a base of a certain grade that's like really easy. And this could, let's say we'll start the base at 4 climbs. And then you on top of that base, it would be another 3 climbs, maybe a grade up from that, could be half a grade. And then the next level would be 2 climbs, either at the next grade. And then at the top of the pyramid is like the next step from there. And sometimes it's better to work from the top down rather than working from the bottom up when you're creating or brainstorming a pyramid. Um, Generally, when we talk about pyramids with our clients, it's like, okay, what is your goal route? Do you have a project that you want to do? Then we can cater that pyramid to that goal climb. So let's say maybe it's a 13A outside and it's a steep 13A. And maybe you've never really done a 13A before. So you would basically work down from there. It'd be 13A, 12D would be the next step down from that, 12C, you'd have 3 climbs there. And then the bottom of the pyramid would be, 12B. And hopefully these climbs will set you up for success for the top of the pyramid. And the way that you work through the pyramid, you don't have to do like each level in isolation. You can kind of just like mix it up. But the first thing is just coming up with your pyramid. So that would be a very like simple example of a pyramid for an outdoor project that you might have. Um, you can do pyramids for indoor as well. If you're not really an outdoor climber, you can do this for boulders. Yeah. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Katya?
No, I think it's really great. And I think we're going to move into, some of the details of the pyramid in a minute. And maybe I'll just give another example for bouldering. Pyramids are often used for people, with a certain goal in mind. People tend to have a project they want to send or like a grade they want to break into. So if you want to break into V4, you want to climb V4, what Mercedes was saying is V4 is the top of your pyramid. And that means in order to prepare yourself for that climb you want to do, what you might want to aim for is trying to do 2 V3s, 3 V2s, and 4 V1s. If you wanted to add another layer, you could add 5 V0s. I think we'll talk a little bit about this, boulders versus rope climbing, and also maybe how wide your base should be and like how wide the pyramid should be. We can maybe touch on that, but that's the goal. And the goal of the pyramid, again, is to prepare you usually for that top climb of the pyramid.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
and
very
I
easy.
Yeah, I find that at least when I talk to some of my clients and they maybe tell me a grade as a goal, and then I ask them a follow-up question of like, well, how many climbs have you done of these other grades? And often there's a big gap missing right in between. Maybe there's a lot that was done and topped at the very base level of the pyramid. And then in the middle of the pyramid, there's just not a lot of tops or cents. There's not a lot of focus there, but maybe there's a lot of attempts at the top of the pyramid. And so what we can see there is that maybe there's just like a lack of one capacity, a lack of skill set, because these other climbs that are below your project level or below your limit, they're going to teach you a lot about the skill of climbing, especially as you're starting to ramp up to your project. So, like I see that as kind of like a common theme when people come to me about their goals. And it's honestly like it is an easy fix. Like if you look at any climber on 8A, I don't even know if 8A is a thing anymore, but let's say you're using Kaya and you can see the list of climbs that they've done, and you can actually see a graphic of these climbs, and a lot of time it looks like a pyramid. And some climbers, their pyramid is like really beautiful and even. Some people, if you look, maybe they struggle with the top end, and their graphic looks a little bit more like a tower. There's not a lot at the base, and so like the top end still isn't getting to their very, very peak. There's still a wide, I guess, a wider volume of climbs. So maybe that person hasn't really been projecting very much. So the shapes of your statistics can tell you a lot about like your climbing and maybe even your skill set.
Yeah, and I think that leads naturally into one question that we often get, which is, what should be the kind of time range for a pyramid? So maybe let
Mm.
me rephrase this. One question that we get a lot is like, should the pyramid be seasonal for outdoor climbing? Should a pyramid be done in a week or in a month for indoor climbing? Or is the pyramid just like all the climbing you've done, right? Let's say what Mercedes was describing on 8A, you usually see a pyramid of all the climbs that a certain climber has done over the years. And then the question sometimes is how to use those pyramids differently than seasonal pyramids, for
Mm.
example, and how to integrate them. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. I guess I can think of three time frames to use pyramids. One of them is a long term, kind of what we're talking about on 8A. The second one would be maybe an in season or a performance like preseason performance season pyramid. So it's a more of a short term, gets you to your goal kind of pyramid. And then you can do an in session pyramid, which is actually a really great way to train. It can get you a lot of volume. So those are three ways that you can use a pyramid. Um, and in terms of like the other benefits, Katya is going to maybe talk about some of the disadvantages of pyramids because there's definitely disadvantages. But what I like about coming up with a pyramid for yourself, especially because this does have to be done by you as the climber. Like your coach can't really do that. Someone else can't really do that. You can maybe get ideas, especially maybe you could talk to folks who have climbed maybe the project that you've done and ask them, hey, what other climbs have you done that helped you prepare for my goal climb? I think those are really important to also put into your pyramid. um, but it keeps you organized. Like I think when it comes to training, we can do a lot of like chasing of a shiny object. If you're a self-coach climber, you might always change your program up. And if you're doing that, you're kind of losing sight of the goal. And a pyramid kind of keeps you centered on the goal. Okay, like what am I preparing for, and how am I going to do this? And the pyramid can give that to you. And again, it pushes your skill sets. It can teach you a lot about your anti-style. So, like you don't always have to try to like push the top end of your pyramid. Um, and you also don't have to just climb super easy things at the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid could be a really great way to work on your anti-style. So it might still be really challenging for you. even though, the grades are lower, um, than you normally would climb. So those are some other benefits, yeah, of using like a more of a long-term pyramid.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I
Mhm.
have so much to say. I just think it's really fun. I like data. Anybody out there actually like making pyramids? I think it's really fun for me to see progress. So if you're a visual person and you like data, it's really fun to make different pyramids, make a pyramid for all the climbs you've ever done. Some programs now do this automatically, like Kaya or even Mountain Project, or even just making in-session pyramids, like Mercedes said. I really think to use pyramids well, I feel like they could be like mini coaches, meaning they can provide guidance for you in your climbing. Because normally, we're such emotional, like subjective humans who want to climb, and sometimes having a pyramid is a little bit of a broader perspective, objective approach to what climbs you might want to focus on. So that's a huge advantage for that. And with that, I would say the biggest sort of mm, helpful piece of advice for making a good pyramid for yourself is really thinking about the intention of the pyramid, right? And I briefly want to talk about what's maybe the intention for an in-session pyramid, for a season pyramid, and like for a year-long pyramid. And I think, as Mercedes already said, most people use pyramids to climb one big project. And let's say this could be a seasonal project. So I don't know, Mercedes, when you climbed your first V10, did you do a pyramid just before you climbed your first V10?
Um, it's funny. I don't always write down my pyramid. I think I naturally always climb my pyramid. Like I don't sit down and say these are the things I'm going to do, but I'm constantly searching to fill in my
Mhm.
pyramid. So I'm a little more like kind of like off the cuff. Okay, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go do that. So yes, like I tried to build a lot of volume in the lower levels to prepare me for my climbs, and like a lot of the stuff that like the V10s that I've done are all overhanging. So like a lot of what I was trying to do was build a pyramid on the moon board because that was the tool that I was able to access consistently. And I tried to use holds that kind of mimicked what I was going to do for my projects. So for me, like that was really easy to do. If my project was maybe on slab, then I'd probably have to get to the gym a lot more and fill in my pyramid. Um, yeah. So I'm not always super intentional, but I've been doing pyramids for so long that it feels really intuitive at this point to fill it in.
I mean, that was actually perfect. I mean, we did
Mhm.
not script this podcast, but this is like a perfect answer because I was kind of like driving home one of the points that I wanted to make, which is being intentional about why are you doing the pyramid. In Mercedes' case, she's preparing for this hard, steep climb. So in that case, it's really important to, in some ways, like collect mileage or do volume of other climbs that are on similar terrain. Because again, the goal is, and this is like this would be a seasonal pyramid to prepare you for this one big climb. So in Mercedes' case, it wouldn't have made sense to now use slab, right, to prepare herself for that, just to fill in the pyramid and tell herself, well, I did a pyramid. Why did it not prepare me for that? That pyramid might not prepare you. So that is really, really important to keep in mind when you want to do a seasonal pyramid. And with that, the timeline also really is very important. And that kind of leads me to one caveat. But again, the caveats of pyramids can also be kind of corrected with intention for pyramids. So let's say if your bouldering or sport climbing season is really short for whatever reason, then maybe not doing a perfect pyramid might not work for you because you might spend all of your time doing a pyramid without trying to send your project, without really working on your project. And that defeats the purpose of a pyramid. So you have to try to find a pyramid or use the intention of a pyramid in order to prepare yourself. And sometimes that means shortening the pyramid. And sometimes that means for sport climbing specifically, sometimes people do ladders instead of pyramids. So ladders would be if you're on a short trip somewhere or you only have a very short season, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe instead of trying to do a pyramid because, or you don't have the climbs available at the crag, you try to do a ladder, but you make it a little bit of a longer ladder. Let's say you want to send 12D. What you try to do instead of doing a pyramid, because it's too many climbs, you might try to send and 11C, 11D, 12A, 12B, 12C in order to prepare you for the top. Again, the point of the pyramid is really to prepare you for the top and give you enough mileage in the lower grades without just projecting the very top. And the goal is to prepare you for that top and help you send that hard climb. And that is something to really keep in mind with pyramids. Because I've definitely seen people get carried away with their pyramids and not even trying their projects, not even trying the things they want to do because they told themselves, oh no, I still need to do these climbs in my pyramid because at some point some coach has told them you need to fill in your pyramid before you can move on to the next grade. And this is where my biggest message I want to give to anybody out there, this is your climbing journey. If you are stoked to just try really hard and you don't want to do a pyramid, you don't have to. That is totally fine. Now, a pyramid does have its value and will prepare you, but don't let that hold you back. If there's a climb that you really, really want to try and you're like so excited about it, but you tell yourself you can't do it because of the pyramid, don't let it do that. But
Mhm.
pyramids are really great to prepare you, especially for outdoor climbing, because we can feel really strong in the gym and then we can transition to the outdoor expecting we're going to climb just as hard, but that might not work the same way. So doing a pyramid for transitioning to outdoor climbing is really, really great.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
there's these, yeah,
no,
go
it
ahead.
reminds me of a conversation I had with Steve in one of our podcasts where, like the people who might stay away from the top end of the pyramid might also have a mindset of constantly preparing. Like it's like they're in this mode constantly to feel like, oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. So I'm just gonna keep doing this other stuff. So yeah, I think that's a huge detriment. Like you probably are ready, or maybe you should just see where are you at and try some of those harder climbs.
So this is where I feel like, again, like you brought like three great examples for the timeline, right? The one I just talked about is kind of like the seasonal pyramid. And what you just kind of referenced to, it's really helpful to look at your general pyramid all over. Maybe like, let's say over the last year, I like to make pyramids with different timelines just to see where I'm at. Sometimes I make it just for a year. What did I do last year? Or what's my overall pyramid from the last 10 years, you know? But that can really help you kind of fill in the top if needed. You might see that your pyramid has a huge wide base, but you're not really trying those harder climbs, you know? And I think that's where a pyramid can be very helpful is to maybe push you and being like, hey, you've done like 20 11As and 10 11Bs, but you've never even tried an 11C. I would say you're ready to at least try an 11C. So it can be very, very helpful for that. Again, it could be a pyramid, could be like a mini coach in that regard. It could tell you, hey, you're definitely ready to try harder things for sure. And also looking at this pyramid, like a bigger pyramid too. This is now especially for people who like to try really hard things maybe too often and not try to fill in that pyramid, using like a 6-month pyramid or like a yearly pyramid or just like if it's in the gym, maybe like a month, because for the gym, a month is kind of a big pyramid already because we get so much volume in, is actually filling in the bottom pyramid with now anti-style climbs, like Mercedes was saying. Now, I don't think that makes so much sense when you do it in season. Again, in season, you're looking for climbs that prepare you for your goal. But when you're like out of season or you just have extra time or you're like, hey, how can I make myself a better, more well-rounded climber? You could start filling in your pyramid and then you can start choosing climbs that are usually your anti-style or maybe there are climbs that are not as popular. Those are my favorite ones because when I do my pyramid climbing, I end up climbing these like random climbs. And while they might be lower star or like lesser quality, which is to be debated in my opinion, I always learn something from them. Because often the climbing is awkward, but let me tell you, awkward climbing teaches you so much because awkward climbing just means you're now climbing in a way that you're not used to. And so there's something to be learned from that. And that's what I love using pyramids.
Mm.
And something else that Mercedes actually naturally responded to my question is again, she came back to intention of the pyramid. The intention really is to just climb enough low and medium grades before pushing, or maybe in preparation to pushing for the hard grades. And it doesn't have to be a perfect pyramid, but again, the pyramid can be a really fun way to prepare you for those harder grades.
Mhm.
And I've actually just been doing pyramids indoor recently. I actually do it through this app that my local gym does. And so it kind of like levels you up. This is an app, it's really fun to use. It's pebble climbing. If you're Salt Lake City, is pretty fun. And so each week you get a pyramid and you have to fill in those climbs. And if you manage to finish the pyramid for each week, you get to level up to the next pyramid next week. And there's two things that I have learned from it. And this is funny because I've been using pyramids for quite some time. And I want to just share this because I think we can all always learn something when we try things again, even when we've used them in the past. So here's what I learned from using like this pyramid system just for the gym each week. And I just do it actually I just do it once a week. So meaning my pyramid is also it's kind of like a density climbing workout where I do like a pyramid in one session. And it's really helped me actually repeat medium hard climbs a lot more than I would have in the past. Usually in the gym, I don't return to climbs that are like, just like above, like my on-site level, I would say, or just above. I just finish them up and I don't come back. But this pyramid makes me repeat them because I have to do so many of them. And that alone has been really amazing for me. And it also actually has pushed me to try harder things at the gym more regularly just because I have this pyramid in front of me and I'm now like, okay, I need to do this X, Y, and Z climb in order to get the top of my pyramids. And so now I'm more focused on the harder climbs and I'm actually trying more harder climbs. And not just the one that I look at and I'm like, oh, I can do it. I'm also trying climbs where I look at them and I'm like, I'm not sure if I can do that, but I will try. So I found really great value just doing it in the gym recently too. Again, that's like the other timeline pyramid that Mercedes talked about, which is kind of like a weekly pyramid in the gym or even just a daily pyramid for workout reasons. And that's been really fun for me.
That's so cool. I love that. And you turn it into a game. It's cool.
Yeah,
If anytime you
it
can
really,
gamify training, that's perfect. Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to talk quickly about like the in season, but like specifically like if you go to a crag for a week, like let's say you decided to organize a trip to Bishop or I don't know, Waco or something like that. It is helpful to have kind of an understanding of maybe where the areas are um and the grades in these areas because when you get there uh you're like, okay, I've been preparing for so long for this trip. I'm ready to send. I'm going to go do my project, whatever. But you can't every day show up and try your project. Like really like the pyramid for an in-season or the crag is great to keep you actually away from your pyramid and allow you to recover by trying one or two grades below the top end. Um, and it also allows you to understand the area. Let's say you've never been to the area before. Um, it would actually be a disservice if you're not trying things at the bottom end of your pyramid. So yeah, before you go, maybe just do some research on like what climbs are in what areas, like where can you get a lot of volume in the first couple days of your trip, while also scoping out your projects, and you can also use your off days to climb your anti-style. Like I love, for me, my anti-style is definitely slab, and it's a great way for me to recover. Like I don't have to pull super hard on my fingers, and it's not as hard on my body. So you can use the pyramid to just help guide your other days when you're not constantly projecting. Because I think what sucks is like maybe at the end of a week, you come away with like maybe only a couple sends and you're like, whoa, like I actually missed this whole chunk of climbs that because I wasn't organized with what I was going to do out here, I missed out. And so I think to really get the most out of your climbing trip, like do some planning, create a pseudo pyramid, and kind of what Katya was saying, like it doesn't have to be this perfect pyramid, maybe even just a ladder. That might be really nice just to keep you focused.
Yeah, and to add something for outdoor, especially bouldering. This is for bouldering specifically because I have a V10. She climbs V10. She has climbed one V10 athlete, and I encourage her to always climb at least one new boulder when she goes outside, and if it's just a V0 or a V1, V2. And especially at the beginning of the season, it's actually really hard to get some athletes who are very strong to climb really easy stuff more often. Because I don't know if it's because of an ego or because it's just a time involved, like a scarcity mindset. I only have so much time. But what I like to say, especially for bouldering outside, is you only get to top out so many boulders in the gym. So every time you get to top out a boulder outside, that's a way of practicing your top out skills. Because most hard boulders, let's say if you want to climb a V4, well, chances are good that there's going to be a V0 top out on top of the V4 or like on top of the V6 even. But when you're tired, that top out's going to feel so much harder. It's high off the ground. And I think it's really, really good to get that practice in. So the more boulders you can top outside, the better you'll be prepared, even for V8, you know? And so, yeah, I am a big fan of trying to climb
Mhm.
lower grades. And
Yeah.
usually they're pretty fun.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are just like, maybe they think the lower grades are just maybe a waste of time or it's stupid or I don't know, whatever. Insert whatever complaint you want to put in there. But for the most part, those lower grades are worth doing unless there's some sort of like safety risk involved.
Exactly, yeah.
But, in general, like someone established that climb, a lot of people have climbed it, and you will learn something. I challenge people like when the ego starts to show up, I challenge them to search for something that climb has taught them. Because definitely, like there's something to learn on every single climb. Um, but yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's
Mhm.
hard on your ego when you climb V8 and then V4 is shutting you down. But
Mhm.
if you're finding a V4 that's shutting you down, then that's the V4 you should be working, probably,
Mhm.
because that
Mhm.
V4 is teaching you something.
Yeah.
Unless, always a caveat, it's like a hold is out of reach because you're very short. Like there's reasons why some V4s might feel hard, even if you're a V8 climber. But
Mhm.
in general, I just always find it's very valuable to fill in those grades.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're very new to outdoor climbing, um, don't ever feel like just because you've been climbing harder grades inside that you should just automatically go to harder stuff outside. Again, like we're gonna keep repeating this, like go to the easy stuff even first. Like, yes, like sure, go try the harder stuff, but the easy stuff is gonna help you understand if you're bouldering, like how to set up pads properly, how to fall properly outside. It's very different than indoor bouldering. Um, like you're going to be able to build up some confidence at the lower levels in that lower part of the pyramid. And especially with sport climbing, you've got a person that you are dealing with, like your belay partner. Like working on the easier stuff is just going to allow you to develop better communication skills and like understand how you both work together. So, like if you're new and you're like, oh, I have tried a handful of climbs and they've all been in this grade range, maybe it's like on your upper end. That is a very clear sign that you need to spend some time on the lower graded stuff and just get really comfortable and lots of volume uh, at the base of that pyramid.
Yeah, totally. Can
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
add one more thing about we briefly touched on this, but I want to emphasize is that there's no rules about how to fill in a pyramid. Let's say you make a brand new pyramid either for the day or for the week, either for the day in the gym or for the month in a gym or for the month outside or for a trip. You make a pyramid and none of the climbs are filled in yet. There's no rule about how to fill in the pyramid. It can be very patchy. Some people think they need to start doing the bottom of the pyramid first before they can move on to the next level of each pyramid. And if that for some reason suits you, you can do that. But I often recommend another way. If you like structure in terms of filling in your pyramid because you want that guidance, I kind of just like going diagonally. And I don't know how to describe this best. If you're on YouTube, you can see me. But let's say if your pyramid is the bottom layer is four V1s, then three V2s, two V3s, and a V4. I kind of just going sideways, meaning like maybe on the first day, maybe I'm on a trip or something. I try to go two V1s, one V2, one V3, that sort of thing. I kind of just like go sideways and kind of go from left to right. And I might even early in my trip or early in the season, I might try my top climb because chances are good you're going to need some days to project anyway. So I try to use the side, like the diagonal of my pyramid, also sometimes to just warm up. I warm up on these climbs and then I try my project. Next time I go back outside, I do another diagonal pyramid and I warm up and I try my project. And I kind of just fill in my pyramid diagonally. Now that would be for a seasonal pyramid, for example, you know.
Mm.
I do it a little bit differently if I do a pyramid in the gym. I do a little bit more like a layer to my pyramid. There's all I'm saying is there's different ways of doing it. There's not one right way of doing it. And again, don't let the opportunities to climb or don't let the pyramid hold you back for opportunities to climb because sometimes, especially climbing outside, there's only so many boulders that are in a certain area that you could climb in a given day. You know, you don't need to move around, you know, get in your car, drive to a different crag just to get that other V2 in your pyramid. It's
Mhm.
okay to fill it in later. Again, the pyramid is just there for guidance.
Yeah. And if you end up ticking things off of your pyramid, fill it back in with other climbs. Like once you tick things off, it doesn't mean, oh, I don't really have to like worry about this level anymore. No, you're actually constantly filling it in because especially as you get uh if you are ticking things off at the top level of your pyramid, you actually need to develop even more at the bottom of your pyramid. You know, you really need to like fatten that pyramid up. So yeah, just keep adding more climbs, more and more climbs in that like middle to bottom range.
Yeah, I remember that's one of the things you told me, Mercedes, when we talked about pyramids. And you told me that for you, the biggest value for your athletes has always been trying to encourage people to do that like medium hard, like just like the belly of the pyramid. Because apparently a lot of people like they like warming up and they do a bunch of easier things, but then they like to jump right into the really hard stuff. And a lot of people don't get more volume kind of in that belly. And you know, if that is you and you don't like the idea of pyramids because it's too much, you know, thinking and planning, maybe you could just try to get more volume in the two or three levels below the hardest stuff you want to do
Mhm.
to prepare you a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Fun.
All right.
This
Well,
is all we have on pyramids.
yeah, like for yourself, get organized, maybe go back and write down all the climbs you've ever done outside. Like it's better for outdoor, like indoor, it's harder to keep track, but to understand what your pyramid, like what you're trying to do or how to create your next pyramid, go back to what you have done and see if there's any blank spots or areas where there's not a lot of volume. And let that maybe be the first guide to developing a pyramid and then put in, you know, a goal climb that you might have indoors or outdoors. Yeah, and it's definitely going to help you. Like this is something that helps like most athletes get better. Yeah. All right, y'all.
Okay, thanks for
That's it.
listening.
Okay. Have a good one,
Bye.
y'all. Bye.
Bye.